Okay, it looks like we're recording. Hey, everybody. Thank you for joining my class today. We're going to do a little professional development over progress monitoring, and we're going to be looking more into reading running records for progress monitoring, and then how to score them and use that data. So a little background about me, although right now I'm a diagnostician. I started teaching as a first grade teacher, and I did that for 6 years, and then moved to middle school to Reading 180. So I've always worked with beginning readers, and so I kind of have a passion for reading, and I think that running records are essential to teaching kids how to read. Okay, so let's look at progress monitoring. So we want to be able to track data, because we know that when we track data, we know where our students are. So basically, what is progress monitoring? It really allows teachers to be able to measure their students' growth throughout the year. Whenever you do progress monitoring, you know which students are growing at the rate they're supposed to and which ones are struggling to make that progress. And the information that you get from progress monitoring, you can add into that plan for that student to ensure that they're going to grow throughout the year. And whenever we also use progress monitoring, we can make decisions about not just individual performances, but as a class and even as a grade. So if you're looking at progress monitoring across the board and all of your first grade classrooms are doing well and you have one class that is underperforming, well, then you may have a problem just within that class. Or if your whole grade level is low performing, then you may have a problem with curriculum. So you can kind of delve into your issues just using progress monitoring. Okay. So why do we need it? I think that was, I kind of explained right back there, but, it helps you make those informed decisions instead of guessing what the student's ability is. So we know that guesses are subjective. They may be accurate, they may not. If little Johnny is reading a passage at his desk, a very simple one, and then has to answer the questions that are asked of him, and he gets them all wrong, you might think that he has a comprehension problem. Oh, we've got to work on comprehension with little Johnny. But actually, Johnny may not be able to read very fluently. He may be sounding a lot of words out and have labored reading, and his comprehension may be fine. It may be his reading is keeping him from actually understanding what he read. So measuring student performance will help us obtain a better view of what our students know and what we still need to teach them. And when you know how your students are performing, then it's better for them, and it's easier for you to make decisions on what to teach and the plan that you need for each individual student. So progress monitoring takes the guesswork out of teaching. When you monitor your students, you know them, you're able to teach them, and then they make the progress. So progress monitoring allows you to adjust your teaching methods based on student needs. You can determine that current performance level. You can base their learning for that school year. You can map out a model of what that's going to look like. Achievement, where they're progressing like they should, or if the gaps are getting bigger, and that rate of progress, are they on track to meet those goals? And so we want to make sure that we are progress monitoring regularly. Some students, that would mean weekly, some students every other week, monthly, or if you've got some very high readers, you may do that, twice a semester. So it just depends on the need of the student. When you measure academic progress, there's several different measures that establishes the student's skills. In reading, teachers, you can monitor for the reading rate or the accuracy. And then, both of those together give you fluency. And you can look at word work. So when you're watching them read, you can kind of observe how they're working through words. And, even more to that, what strategies are they using when they read, if they're using any? You can see how they deal with vocabulary. You can test their comprehension skills, their phonemic skills. Are they using phonics? And can they retell the story, author's purpose? So even going into some of those teaks that you have to master before the end of first grade, you can assess those also. Let's talk about guided reading. For guided reading, there's several ways you can assess readers. You can take notes and records, and you can do little conferences, formal and informal observations. You can keep a reader's notebook. You get readers' responses. Keep reading logs. I know that whenever they do like reading counts or accelerated reader, you keep your reading logs. You've got grades on that. Reading portfolios, and then there are your running or reading records. So what a running record does is provides teachers the opportunities to capture the behaviors of that student while the reading is occurring. So you're watching their movements, how they read, if they're using their fingers still to read. You're observing those strategies that they're using or lack of strategies. Reading records can be taken from prepared forms. So there are several programs that already have benchmark books that are set aside, and they have running records already made for those books. Or you can take a plain running record form, which I sent you guys. So that's in your little pack of goodies that I sent. But, you have the running record form that's blank, and you can use that to check mark and take a running record that way. So running records can be taken on anything you read at any time. And when you take running records, there's a standard procedure that you use to code certain words. There's a scoring system. There is a way to analyze and interpret those records. And we'll talk about those actually in a minute, because we're going to finish learning about running records, and then we're going to kind of actually put it into practice. Running records are useful because you can plan instruction for your students. You can do it as a whole group for your class. You can break it into small groups, and you can even give individual instruction for a student who may need that. The running records help to assess text difficulties for the students. So what are they specifically struggling with that you notice? You may want to do your groups that way instead of by what number book they're on. Running records allows you to regroup students appropriately whenever you need to, whether it's, 4 weeks later or after the 6 weeks, however you want to do that. And it is a track record over time that you're getting to see what happens with this student. And it gives you a closer observation of students who are having difficulty in particular areas. So another sheet that I gave you was a running record form, and it's actually a bar graph that you can use, and you can list the week at the top and kind of even color in what book level they're on, and you can visually see if it's climbing a ladder, if it's stagnant, or you're having a reduction, which would be very telling. So we know that taking this data is important because everybody's involved in RTI, that response to intervention, that you have to keep track of your kids, especially if you want them to get some extra help. There's got to be data there. And especially when you want to start a referral for a special education evaluation, you've got to have the data there. So it's super important, especially on your low babies, that you're getting a lot of data, and running records is a great way to do that. So before you start a running record, you need to have a few things. You want to pick a book that you think is close to the child's developmental reading level. Once you do the first one and you find out that reading level, you'll be able to gauge, where you want them to go a little better. So it may take you a few at first to really find that child's instructional level. You're going to choose a running record form. So, if there's a pre-made one, obviously that one, or you can take one of those blank ones. And if you find yourself in a situation and you do not have the blank running record form, pull a piece of notebook paper and you can use that. I mean, you can take a running record on the back of some note that someone gave you. It doesn't matter. So just as long as you can follow the coding systems, which I'll teach you in a minute. So any other measures that you are wanting to give, so like if you have some comprehension questions afterwards, or if you want to ask some of the elements of plot, so you want to have those ready. And you might want to have a cheat sheet ready. And I also sent you guys in the little bundle a cheat sheet for you to use. And I'll show you one of those in a second in the PowerPoint, but it kind of has all of the little symbols. And I know that whenever I started doing running records, I kept one of those kind of close by so that I could reference it a little more often. Okay. So some terms that you'll need to know whenever we're looking at running records, are errors. And these are counted up in total after you're through reading. And so some of the errors that you're going to end up marking are substitutes for word. So instead of the word brown, the student says black. So you're going to want to count that as an error. If they just leave the word out completely, like the brown fox jumps, and they just say the fox jumps, so that would be an error. So if they insert a word or they insert something in the word, so the brown foxes jump, that would be an insertion, or the brown happy foxes jump, that would be an insertion too. And so also another error is if the student waits and kind of gets stuck on a word. So let's say they get stuck on the word brown and they're just sitting there. After 5 seconds, you want to go ahead and give them some teacher assistance and tell them that word so they can keep going. You can wait a little longer than 5 seconds if you think that they're kind of sounding it out and they might get it. But don't wait any longer than 10 seconds. So if they're going the brr, 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 you might want to give them a little over 5 seconds before you jump in and fix that for them so they can move on. Okay, so self-corrections are going to happen whenever you're doing a running record. So if the child says the brown fox, you're going to write that, record that they said an error, but you're going to give them an SC, self-correct, because you want to go ahead and give them credit for whenever they make a correction in their reading. And then you do not score that as an error. Another thing that we want to look at the running record, and this is done after the fact, is meaning, structure, and visual. And so you're going to look at the error that the child made, and you're going to say, okay, well, was that an error that, still pertained to meaning, or did they give it structure, and then visually, was that kind of the same? And I have a neat little visual for you to be able to understand that more whenever we get to that part. Okay. So how often do you take running records? You want to take them more frequently for very early readers. So definitely in first grade, I think you'll be doing a lot more running records than you would say in the third grade. If they're not progressing at an acceptable rate, or they've started low and they're slowly progressing, you're going to assess them more frequently, maybe every week even. Emergent readers are the ones that are slightly below grade level, or, you're starting out low in the first grade and they seem to be making progress. And so you're not super worried about them. 2 to 4 weeks. And then you've got your kids who are a little above grade level. So like if they're a little above a first semester reader in the first semester, maybe you would do them every 4 to 6 weeks. I think 6 is a little too long in my personal opinion. But early fluent readers, so you're above grade level every 6 to 8 weeks. And when you've got fluent readers, you do not need to test them all the time. You know, you should be working on more reading skills like author's purpose and doing book studies and things like that. So every 8 to 10 weeks would be fine for them. Okay, a few more things. Whenever you're doing a running record, you want to sit next to the child side by side so that you can observe their reading as well as listen to them. I have done it across from the student. You're kind of upside down, but if you work okay that way, then that's fine. If the child ends up reading too fast for you and you have trouble marking the record, ask them to pause and kind of just, you know, cover the sheet and catch yourself up real quick and say, okay, let's start back right here. Make sure you stop your timer though, so as that doesn't count against the student. I've already told you guys if they get stuck, you know, you want to go ahead and teacher assist them after that 5 or 10 seconds of wait time. Go ahead and tell them the word so they can move on. If the child gets confused or loses their place, you need to point them back to their reading spot so they can get back on track. And basically intervene as little as possible because we really want a true picture of their reading skills. And so the less we can do and get that big picture is best. All righty, this is your cheat sheet. So on your cheat sheet, you're going to have hopefully a lot of check marks. Everything that the student reads correctly, you give it a check right above the word. Whenever we're talking errors on a substitution, you will write the word that they said over the word that they should have read. So the brown fox, the student says the brave fox. You're going to go ahead and write brave on top of brown. I like to put a little line between those. Visually, it brings my eye to that correction. Omissions, there's that long dash. And so that when the student leaves a word out completely, you want to go ahead and just mark a line over it so that shows you that nothing was said for that word. And insertion is that little TP arrow, and you want to kind of just write in what it is that the student said as far as giving more to the sentence than was there. I would have probably gone ahead and put a check over brown also because if the student, you know, got that correctly, the little brown fox. Repetitions. The repetitions on this, they have an R. If the student says the brown fox, so if they just repeat the word brown, the brown fox, they have an R. I've done it for many years, so I'm used to this next picture where they have the line with the arrow. And so I'll show you in a minute, but I, you know, kind of box that phrase or that word whenever you get a repetition. So self-corrections, you'll see where they said the brave fox came back and said brown. The brave fox, you would go, back it up. The brave brown fox, did that backwards, you would want to go ahead and write the error /SC because the student went back and corrected themselves. If you do have to intervene because the student is confused or you have to assist, so the TA is when you have to tell them to try again and to point where they're supposed to start. So you kind of had to reroute them on that one. So you want to put that there. Whenever you have to intervene just to tell them a word because you've given them that 5 to 10 second wait time, that's just a T. And then if they are giving that beginning sound or 2 sounds, the brown box, then you want to go ahead and mark that they said the B and then give it a check because they did get that right. But that's data for you because you're knowing, okay, well, they're doing a reading strategy right there. So we need to get them flowing through that word instead of stopping at that first sound. Okay. All right. So I'm going to come back and check on my people because I can't see when I'm doing the PowerPoint. Is everybody good so far? Does anybody have any questions about the PowerPoint, about running records? Does everybody feel good so far? Okay, I got some thumbs up, and I know my friends would speak up. They are not shy, so they would let me know. Okay, I'm going to jump back over. Okay, so I have a YouTube here of a teacher, and she is doing a running record on a student. I like this video because you can see, hopefully the sound will work, but if the sound doesn't work, the great thing about this video is it's very visual, so you can actually see her doing the check marks. It'd be best if we could hear the kid reading, but I always fear technology. So you can actually see what she's doing on the running record. So let me give it a go here. Everybody can see? No? Okay, hang on. It was down the hill. Could y'all see the video then? No video? Oh. Let's see. You're presenting. You know what? Let's try this.
We can hear it.
Oh.
I can hear it, but I can't see it.
I did not. I just assumed that I would get the opposite effect. Let's see. I'm going to stop presenting. And let's try a Chrome tab. And how about that?
Yes, we can see that.
Yay. Okay, here goes. I'll rewind it just a smidge and go.
Wheel comes off the truck.
Okay, turn the page.
It was down the hill. Faster and faster. The wheel was the
Field.
field. It was past
Good for you.
the cows. Faster and faster.
Mm-hmm.
The wheel was
Okay, let's see. Stop there.
Okay.
the
So I'm going to stop it right there. I think that that gives you a pretty good visual of what it looks like to take a running record. And you could see that she, even when the girl goes faster, she did the F and wrote faster. So she's getting a pretty good representation. So I'm going to go back to our PowerPoint. There we go. Okay. All right, so get your running records, a pencil, and we're going to do one, and I'm going to be the reader. You're going to need to have the book on hand. I've got a little passage. You'll see it in a second. You do not have to mark MSV. I haven't taught it yet because I don't want to mess with it yet, so don't worry about that. And have your cheat sheet handy for any references. Okay. At the beginning of first grade, when they're just learning how to read, you can check for fluency, but I don't think it's as important as maybe it is once they kind of get to semester first grade, maybe a level DRA 10 or something like that. So, all right. So we're going to go ahead and I'm going to read. All right, ready? The moon can look different. Student, go. The moon can look different. I can see orange, white, and red. I see an orange moon at nighttime. What is under the orange moon? These trees are under it. These leaves are under it. These yellow apples are under it. This teacher assist brown fox is under it. This white owl is under it. I like to see the orange moon. Okay. So let's look at what we have. Okay, guys. So when you're looking, you should have 4 errors. Does everybody see 4 errors? Any questions on that? Okay. There were 1, 2, 3. I got 3 self-corrections and 2 repetitions. Does that seem right to everybody? So for the second sentence, where you're at word count 12, I for it and C for look. W for white and then a check mark. Nighttime was also sounded out, but got correctly. Leaves was sounded out, but corrected. Yellow for yummy. And this brown fox, the teacher had to assist. Okay. So when we count those up, we know that we had 4 errors, and that looks like 1, 2, 3 self-corrections. Am I right? It's 3 self-corrections, right? 1, 2, 3. Okay. All right. So I'm going to go back to the PowerPoint, and we're going to do the math. Uh-oh. Not the right one. I don't think. Can y'all see the PowerPoint whenever I pull that up? Nope. Okay. I know what I want to do. Okay. Sorry, guys. Okay. Casey or Adriana, can you see the scoring screen?
No. Did you click on present now?
Let's try. Oh, If I do it like this and I pick, can you see the scoring now?
No.
Okay. I'm going to try one more thing. Doo-doo-doo. Come on. A window. It won't go back up. But the great thing is I don't have to have this screen. So I'm just going to close the PowerPoint and reopen it. But in the meantime, let's talk about errors. So you want to take the total number of words that you had. And at the top of your page, you can see that that is 60. So we're going to take 60 and we're going to, I want to say, divide that by 4. But unfortunately, I closed my PowerPoint. But I'm getting that sucker back because it's the cheat sheet. Let's see. All right. So let's present. Hello. How's that? It gave me a notice that I was sharing. Okay. All right. So you have your error rate. And so you want to take 60 divided by 4 because that's how many errors we have. So you come up with 15 as your answer. And so that ratio is expressed for every one mistake, they're getting 15 words correctly. And so that is your error rate, 1 of every 15 words. Not too bad. And then your accuracy rate, you want to do that 60 minus 4 and then divide by 60. So that number 54, well, it should be 56. That's embarrassing. So I'll do the math really quickly. So instead of 54, we would want to take the 56 divided by 60, and we would come up with still a 93. So the 0.93 that you get on the calculator times 100 is 93%. So you get your accuracy rate right there. And then your self-correction rate, you want to look at your errors plus your self-correction. So if a student had 10 errors and then they self-corrected 5, you want to divide that by your self-corrections. And so 15 divided by 5 would be 3. So it means that the child corrects 1 out of every 3 of their errors, which is pretty good also. Let's see. Words correct per minute. I'm not going to go into that right now. That is something you'll want to do as you get into higher levels of words, of reading levels, because you're really going to want to track your kids' fluency whenever they become better readers. So I'll make sure you have this information. So when you have the accuracy rate, you want to, when you get a 95 to 100%, you want to go ahead and bump that kid up a reading level because they're independent at that point on the one you tested them on. And if you get a 90 to 94, you got it. That's your sweet spot. That's where you want to keep them and instruct them. And if you get below 90%, then you want to go back and maybe bump them down a book and find where you get that 90 to 94%. You may have to bump down 2 books. So you'll need to kind of find that area for them. So meaning, structure, and visual cues. You need to be able to look and see, were they reading for meaning, structure, visual? Notice if your kid was self-correcting a lot. Notice, if they were using their finger, if they could follow and track their lines. So you kind of want to make sure you have those observations about your kids' reading. Determining meaning, structure, visual. So if it's meaning, Sarah watched the kid play instead of child. Okay, well then it was meaningful. They just had an error. So that's what that would tell you. Syntax was, did it sound right? Is it sound correct? In the English language, Sarah watched the child play. Sarah watched a child play. So you have syntax if it sounds right. And visual, did it look right? Sarah watched the child pay instead of play. Although it doesn't have meaning, visually, those words are very similar. So you can look and kind of track your child's errors and if they have some type of meaning to them. And lastly, I just gave you guys a little information about the Learning A to Z versus Lexile versus DRA, Fontes and Pinnell. You can get Rigby books, all kinds of charts off of the internet, conversion charts. They are a dime a dozen. So anything you need, you can find it. And so I did want to say that I did use information from Reading A to Z. I think that it's a fabulous program that I buy into because it gives me lots of information and things that I can access for my kids. Guidelines for running records and reading assessments. And then Miss Mooney in the 3rd grade shared her a lot of her items with me. She's a great source of information. I know that was a little rushed at the end. Does anybody have any questions? Everybody seems good. Okay. I'm going to stop presenting so I can see everybody. And I just wanted to tell everybody thank you for attending. I really appreciate you all participating with me and letting me give you information on guided reading and running records. And please let me know if I can share this information with anyone else because I would love to be able to give somebody this tool because I think it is immeasurable whenever you're trying to teach a kid to read. So, all right. Is everybody good?
Yes,
Thank you. Thank you all so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Bye, everybody. hope not. Yeah,
I think,
I am.
oh my God, I think you can cut it off.
I don't know how. Stop recording.